You've probably heard that the Hercules beetle can lift 850 times its own body weight. It's printed in textbooks. It shows up in world record compilations. Nature documentaries repeat it without blinking. It is a complete fabrication. Rigorous biomechanical testing puts the real number at 100, and at that load, the beetle can barely move. But that debunked myth is not the reason this insect deserves your attention. The reason is what it costs to become a Hercules beetle in the first place. To reach adulthood, this insect spends 2 years eating in total darkness, locks itself inside a vault made of its own feces, dissolves 70% of its body mass, and rebuilds itself into a 180mm armored weapon, the longest beetle on Earth, that can snap its own horn clean off mid-fight. Every stage of this life cycle is a transaction. The insect pays in mass, in time, in risk. What it purchases is the next stage. The currency changes. The price always goes up. This is how it begins. Deep inside the rotting trunk of a fallen rainforest tree, a female deposits a single egg, 3 millimeters, smaller than a grain of rice, into fermenting wood pulp. No nest, no protection, no parental care. That egg sits alone in absolute darkness. Over 30 days, it absorbs moisture and swells into a taut, rubbery sphere. If the humidity drops, it desiccates. If a mite finds it, it gets consumed. If the log shifts, it gets crushed. Most never hatch. The ones that do release a 7.5mm white grub with no functional eyes, no wings, no armor, and no horns. Just a hardened head capsule and a pair of mandibles built for chewing wood. And this grub's adult size, its horn length, its combat ability, its entire reproductive future, is determined solely by how much rotting wood it manages to eat over the next 2 years. The problem is that wood is one of the worst foods on Earth. Almost no protein, almost no fat, almost no usable amino acids. A grub eating wood is like a human trying to survive on cardboard. The grub does not solve this problem. Its gut bacteria do. A dense microbiome in the larval midgut ferments the indigestible wood, cracks apart the plant polymers, and synthesizes the amino acids the wood doesn't contain. Without these bacteria, the grub starves to death inside a log, made entirely of food. And to keep them alive, the grub eats its own feces. Constantly. Each cycle re-inoculates the gut. The surrounding soil becomes an external stomach, the grub seeds with its own waste, and harvests the results. The payoff is growth that defies insect biology. Over 18 to 24 months, the grub molts through 3 stages. By the final stage, it stretches past 15 centimeters and weighs up to 140 grams. Hold it in your outstretched hand and it fills your entire palm. It weighs more than a baseball. If a human baby grew at this rate, it would weigh 160 pounds by age 2. But if the log is overcrowded, the food runs out early. Undernourished larvae pupate small, producing stunted minor males with pathetic nub horns, doomed to lose every fight they ever enter. Their entire adult existence is a concession to a childhood they had no control over. The larvae that do get enough food face a different cost. That 140 grams of stored mass is not a luxury. It is a down payment for the most expensive construction project in the insect world. When hormonal triggers signal the end of growth, the larva stops eating forever. It spins in slow circles, compacting soil, chewed wood, and its own liquefied feces into a rigid dome, a sealed subterranean vault roughly the size of a tennis ball. If it builds this chamber too small, by even a centimeter, it will emerge as a crippled adult. No second chance. Inside the vault, the grub sheds its final skin. The pupa beneath cannot move, cannot feed, cannot defend itself. Over the next 2 to 3 months, it dissolves its own larval muscles, gut, and fat reserves into a biological slurry, then rebuilds everything from scratch. New flight muscles, new compound eyes, new mouthparts redesigned from wood-crushing mandibles into brush-like structures for lapping fruit juice. The grub entered this chamber at 67 grams. The adult that emerges weighs 21 grams, a 68% reduction. If a 250-pound human did this, they would seal themselves in a room for 3 months and emerge weighing 80 pounds. But the most dangerous moment is the horn inflation. The male's horns start as shriveled, wrinkled tissue, like deflated balloons. Hemolymph, insect blood, surges under hydraulic pressure, inflating the thoracic horn forward and the cephalic horn upward. The chitin hardens as it expands. Once it sets, the shape is permanent. If the chamber is the correct size, the horns form a dual-pronged lever, exceeding half the beetle's total body length. If a 6-foot human had these proportions, a solid bone would extend 3.5 feet from their face. If the chamber is too small, The inflating horn strikes the dirt ceiling and hardens bent. Permanently deformed. 2 years of feeding, 2 years of fecal recycling, erased by an inch of miscalculated architecture. The adult waits underground for weeks more, while its exoskeleton cures from pale beige to deep olive green with black spots. And that coloration hides something remarkable. When humidity rises above 80%, moisture floods microscopic void spaces within the shell, eliminating the light scattering effect that produces the green. The beetle turns pitch black. In seconds, no pigment change, pure structural physics. When the rain stops, it turns green again, a reversible camouflage system that costs zero energy to operate. When the soil softens after a heavy rain, the adult male digs to the surface for the first time in his life. He has never seen sunlight, he has never flown, and his body is already dying. His exoskeleton is locked. He will never grow another millimeter. He will never heal a wound. Every scratch is permanent. He has between 3 and 12 months to find a female, fight for territory, mate, and die. Those massive horns barely slow him down. They are entirely hollow, accounting for 2.5% of his total body mass. Aerodynamic testing shows they increase flight drag by less than 3%. Like strapping a 15-foot foam sword to the roof of a car and seeing no change in fuel efficiency. But the horns were not built for flight. Remember the 100 times body weight figure? The real number, not the myth? This is where it gets deployed. When a male finds a rival near a receptive female, an escalating sequence begins. The challenger rubs his abdomen against his wing covers, producing a rhythmic zizzing squeak, a stridulation warning. If neither backs down, they charge. Each male wedges his horns around the opponent's body, searching for a fulcrum. The underside of the top horn is lined with microscopic reddish-brown hairs, not for sensing, but for grip, biological sandpaper. When the clamp locks, the attacker's thoracic muscles fire with 140 newtons of force. The victor lifts his rival completely off the bark and hurls him into the dark canopy below. The winner claims the female. The loser falls. But the largest males fight at the structural margin of their own weapon. The safety factor, the ratio between braking force and combat force, drops to as low as 3.5.17% of wild males carry visible combat injuries. 4% suffer catastrophic horn fracture. The horn snaps off mid-fight. It will never regrow. That male will never clamp another rival, never win another territory, never mate. The weapon that cost 2 years and 70% of his body mass, gone in a single over-leveraged grip. And combat is not the only threat. While that 140-gram grub was growing underground, it was broadcasting. The vibrations of its mandibles chewing wood traveled through the log like a beacon. Scolied wasps, massive, metallic blue parasitoids, are built to find these grubs. The female wasp burrows in, stings the grub with a paralyzing neurotoxin, and lays a single egg on its body. When the egg hatches, the wasp larva eats the grub alive from the inside out, saving the vital organs for last to keep the host fresh. 2 years of growth, consumed by a parasite that found it by listening to it eat. Even the adults that survive everything, combat, owls, wasps, bats, face one final, non-negotiable cost. The exoskeleton does not repair. Every flight wears the wing edges thinner. Every fight chips the armor. One night a joint fails. One night a wing case cracks. One night he falls from a branch and cannot right himself. And in the wet leaf litter, the fungi that fed him as a larva begin to feed on him. Not 850 times its body weight, 100. And even that number, even at its real, verified, tested maximum, is enough to destroy the very weapon it spent its entire life constructing. 34 months, 24 underground, 3 dissolving, a final handful fighting, feeding on rotting fruit, and searching for a mate in the humid dark. 34 months, 1 life cycle, every gram accounted for, every cost paid in full. And somewhere in the rotting trunk of a fallen tree, a 3mm egg is absorbing moisture, swelling in the dark, preparing to begin the entire transaction again.